Where were you before joining? Like, what was the situation? How are you feeling about your career?
Right before I joined the program, I was very much a bedroom producer. I was learning and I was definitely feeling more confident in my producing, but my stuff was still muddy. I felt like I wasn't like getting opportunities to either work with the people I wanted to work with or play the shows that I wanted to play. I also felt like there was no community for me specifically in my genre. I felt pretty alone in my struggle and my journey, but I kept at it. And so I still saw music at that point as kind of a bedroom side hobby. Around that time, I wrote like a remix for Greedy, which is now like one of my better performing songs on like SoundCloud. That was like the kind of like the breakthrough song for me. Like I look back on it and I'm like, yeah, I could have done this better, could have done that better. But at the time I was so happy with that remix and putting it out, I just felt like, I could actually do this. That's the music side. On the content side, I didn't even give a shit about content at the time. Yeah, no content game. Basically, I saw content as pretty much like not even secondary, like pretty much just like supporting for like the music.
So, dude, obviously you were in the Melodic Bass Masterclass, one of the first things I did. What was the moment that made you like want to get help and take it to the next level? And what inspired you to actually make that change and more go all in and take that leap, man, and join us?
I was spending the last 2 years before joining this program trying to find my sound. I really picked up production in 2022. And then like just for 2 years, I was just banging my head against the wall. I took the leap, obviously, for this program. I saw the ad on Instagram and I was like, I'm just going to comment melodic on this post and be like, whatever happens, happens. So you sold me on the ethos for sure. And then as we went through the melodic bass, like the masterclass and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I can see myself like doing this like on a weekly basis.
All right, dude. So where are you now, man?
The content has been ramping up. Like I had like one video do pretty well on TikTok. It had like almost like 30,000 plays by now. So I was like, that's like my very first like thing that ever like, did more than like 10K. So I was like, hey, I think I found like at least my voice on TikTok and I found kind of the confidence that I wanted there. The music stuff has been going really well. I've had 2 songs on Spotify, and then I've got a couple more songs lined up with like singers that I've idolized in the melodic bass space for like the last like 5 years or so. Also had like show opportunities, so like I've kind of gained a foothold in my local community.
Walk me through just like what about the program has been the most helpful.
So I'll start with the first thing, like obviously working with you, Zach, it's been super cool. And I've had like the special opportunity to be able to like, have a song with you and everything. So I think that's also like awesome. You're just like a super good speaker and you always bring great advice. And it's always like advice that you're bringing out on the fly. On top of that, like you're making yourself available every single week to, have these slots and these conversations with these artists. And you're going out of your way to bring like, obviously the guest speakers I'll mention later, but you're going out of your way to bring these guest speakers on. So you're doing a lot for the group in terms of, your own personal contribution. And I really appreciate that. And obviously you got the label going. So that's like another thing that's like, helping us out as artists. Plus you're like self-improving. So you're like working on the business side of things and you've got the team going. So I really appreciate all of like the effort that you and Caleb and Oscar, you guys all have like been kind of pouring your thing into this. Oh, and Vic. The second point about, this 5D thing is like, it's a really big exercise on branding and it like helps you kind of figure out like imagery, helps you figure out your sound, helps you figure out your content, but like more than that, like it helps you figure out like why you're doing everything that you're doing. And I think for me it was like I didn't really know what the why was, so I really dug deep and I came up with like what is the true reason for why I'm doing music. And I think the 5D blueprint is super helpful and like just figuring out like what like who you are in your story and like what that world looks like. So 5D blueprint is like the core of that. I feel like you can't really go anywhere on that.
Awesome, man. So yeah, moving on to, dude, the community, bro, the group calls and just the other people in the group.
Yeah, so it's been like most people are rotating through 6 month cycles. I've been here since, the last year and 3 months or something like that, or even longer. So I've seen people come and go, but I love these guys all the same. I feel like there's just a lot of different personalities that you come by. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn definitely. And like some of these people who come through the program are incredibly cracked. And I've obviously gotten to collab with some of these guys and I've seen the way that they make music and I've seen how they write things. So they're always giving tips and pointers for, what plugins you should buy or like what musical techniques you should employ in your songs or like how to fix your mix and stuff like that. that. So the community, I think for me is a very core thing because you can come to a forum every single Monday for a couple hours and just talk about like, what you're going through or talk about your music or talk about your struggles, or help other people figure out what their struggles are. I just think it's super helpful to be able to, have like almost like a meetup every single week to hash that out. I feel like it's therapeutic almost. It's almost empowering to kind of have everybody around you doing the same thing.
Well, dude, I wonder if you could touch on too, man, at the show on 4th of July or something, and it was you and Vellum and Royce and Deary. You met those guys and really developed that friendship from being here and them all being in the group at some point. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So yeah, Vellum and I were in the program at the same time. We basically joined at the same time. And, obviously he didn't stay through until as long as I did, but we kept in touch. We have a song together. I think we connected on, a bunch of different levels because of the way that we were making music and, just the fact that he lives 10 minutes down the street from me. That's super cool. Royce, just met that guy like for the first time July 4th, actually in person. He's super tall. Never had spoken to him in person before then. But I always liked, the stuff that he was doing on social media. I thought it was super funny. In calls, like he was super like cool. And, obviously getting to hear his music, he's like an incredibly talented musician. So meeting those guys in person and having them come out for like me to support me for my show, like I didn't really ask them to come. Like I was just like, hey, like I'm going to post this on my social media. And then they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're going to come to your show. So I was like, wow, this is community. Like and so I'm obviously going to do the same thing for them, but like we built it together. You know what I mean? So,
right. Like when I had the show in Vegas and you came and Mike came and Caleb, like, dude, that was super special, man. And I think that's the real power of community and groups, not just it being an internet thing, but you guys actually making songs and collabing and showing up for each other, man. What have been your thoughts about the guest speakers?
Yeah, so the guest speakers cover so much of what it takes to be an artist. We've had like, training on legal stuff. We've had training on like branding stuff. We've had training on like marketing. We've had training on ads, like all of this stuff that like you would never think about. And I've looked on YouTube, like there's nothing on YouTube or like there's very little resourcing on YouTube. You really have to go and find these people on Instagram and pay them thousands of dollars to be able to get, even like a fraction of what you could get here. The one class that we have like per guest speaker is like 3 hours long. We get to ask as many questions as we want, and we're using them as a resource, and they're super helpful and knowledgeable, and we're able to refer back to these videos after the fact. I just think it's super helpful because you're getting stuff that you wouldn't get anywhere else, and I think that's super valuable. I think that's like, that I feel like that's priceless. Like that stuff is worth thousands of dollars on its own, and it pays for the program on its own.
Yeah, it's cool. Literally the library that we have now in the group calls, man.
Yeah.
Like kind of wild. Of everything you talked about, man, what do you feel like are the things that come to mind for you that have been the most helpful for getting Tam to where he is today?
I mean, the number one thing, obviously, I think is content. Number two is music. And then number three is community. Yeah. So I think this program is more of an investment in yourself. Like, sure, you can buy ads, you can invest in the best singer in the game, or you can invest in like the best production mentor. The thing is, like, we do cover all of that already. And so investing in yourself is probably the biggest thing here because you're getting like the knowledge you would need to do all of this yourself. This program kind of makes everything easy because everything is just kind of in one place. Like you said, there's a library of things that we have, but that library is all, it's all here. Whereas like if you were outside of this program, you would be, looking for different YouTube videos, or you'd be like scouring the internet for Patreon. You'd be like looking for Instagram coaches and stuff like that. It's just, I think it's mentally exhausting, and it like makes the job of being an artist that much harder because you have all of these overhead things that you have to think about that are super important to being a successful artist. But then that takes away from the music. And if you can just get all that stuff packaged up for you in like one neat little package. But yeah, like the more you put into this program, the more you're going to get out of it. Just show up every day. Even if like you're, not feeling it a certain day. Like there are plenty of days where I felt like, oh man, like the calls today on Monday, and I gotta eat dinner, and like I gotta do all this stuff, and I gotta, whatever. Just don't make excuses. Like just show up. Every time I've come out into a call feeling, a little unmotivated, I've come out of a call feeling even more motivated to, work on content because I'm watching everybody else do it and I'm being pushed to do it. That's kind of why I've been here for so long, because it's been super helpful and it's been like kind of a fire under your ass.
This is a lot of money. I've never spent this amount of money on my music career. Like, if there's anything else that comes to mind, what would you tell him, Tam?
I mean, the way that I see it is it's like if you would pay money to go to school, it's like the same as tuition pretty much. And if you're not ready to make that plunge, if you're not ready to at least spend some money on yourself and invest in yourself as you would a business, because this is a business, right? Maybe think about it more and try to convince yourself, because this is really this is the investment that you want to make.
Yeah, man, this stuff is super helpful, man, because that is where a lot of people get lost. They're like, they don't even see anything else other than like, oh man, this is a lot of money. I mean, dude, you get it.
Yeah, I was there. I was sus. When I first came in, I was like, I don't know. 6K is a lot, but you just have to take that plunge.
Just one more thing on that note of like, you were sus. What was that feeling for you of like, this is sus, but I'm going to do it anyways? And like, now that you've gone through it, you're like, dude, of course this was worth it, man.
Well, yeah, I think it's hard for people to swallow that, like, you're putting a lot of money into, something that's like online or like something that doesn't feel tangible. And you're like joining this community that you really don't have much of an idea about. The one thing that kind of helped me through it was, obviously knowing that you had worked with like a lot of like big artists, and also that like the master class was a nice appetizer. Definitely like, once you were in the master class and once you felt like what it was like to be in the program, it made like joining the actual program a little bit easier. So I would say like if you can like offer at least some kind of like a trial. People are results based. So I think putting the results out there is probably the biggest thing. Like the wins or like the people who have success on social media or anything like that. Like even like if it's not like huge numbers, I think like, the average artist who's going through this program or like who's, going through you for a sales call, they're probably not getting like, tens of thousands of views on TikTok, on Instagram Reels and stuff like that. They're probably getting somewhere in like the hundreds or like any, whatever. So I think like targeting them as an audience is probably helpful. Like just knowing that like, hey, like if you join this program, we'll at least, give you all the resources to get you to, this next step, which is, all of these views or like all of these streams or all of these like, collaboration opportunities. So
cool, man. What would you like to see more of? And like, how can I make the community more valuable, more helpful, more resources? Like what comes to mind, man? Any feedback to just like make PULSR better?
I guess nothing off the top of my head right now. I've been actually pretty happy with, everything. I'd have to think about it a little harder if I were to give you a real answer.
Bro, I'll take that, Tam. We're doing something right. So cool, man. Dude, I guess I always like to just ask this one final, like, is there anything else that comes to mind for you about how this has been for you that we didn't already touch on?
Yeah, I'm super grateful. And I think like I wouldn't be where I am today without this program in terms of mindset, confidence, musical ability, just, all the facets and all the knowledge that I've gotten wouldn't be here, wouldn't have all the friends that I have from this program. So it's been good. I'm going to be here for like another 3 months, I think. And then, yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. But for me, it's like, I view it as like, being in school and being motivated every day to work on myself.
So glad I asked that final question, dude. That was sauce right there. Damn, I appreciate you so much, dude.